Hey, it's Hunt. You found Hunt on Saints. We're talking black and gold football. Do us a favor. Hit the like button, share your comments below, and hit that subscription button so you can get all of our content. Enjoy. It's a kick around that offensive staff. Dennis Allen spoke about it yesterday on the NFL Network, talking about how they've got some youth to go with Klint Kubiak, but they've also got some experienced veterans that they've brought in on that staff. What do you make of the blend of the offensive staff?
Yeah, I really like it. I think it's smart. He's brought in some guys who have a ton of experience in Rick Dennison and John Benton. Guys, we're talking about like 2-3 decades of experience with those coaches, and they are specialists both on the offensive line, which I think the Saints need a lot of help there. So you have that blend along with a couple of guys who are in their 30s. In Andrew Janoko and Klint Kubiak. I just think that it's the kind of mix that you want in your coaching staff. Where you got ideas from all different kind of walks of life, all different kinds of experience levels. Guys you can tap into when they were coaching in the 90s, and guys who were in like elementary school in the 90s. I think it's a good mix.
So Dennis Allen said yesterday on that show that they started to use play action a little bit more late in the season and had some success. And we know, based on all the studies that a lot of folks like you do watching film, that they were among the bottom of the NFL in terms of pre-snap motions and shifts and whatnot. Like, what were they doing in September and October, and how different should this look?
Well, I mean, I think it's going to look a lot different. It's going to look a lot different if you're like very, very keen on what the Saints have been doing, right? And you've been following them very closely. You know that they don't, they're often a pretty static offense at the line of scrimmage, and they've been kind of doing their whole thing out of just mixing up personnel groupings. Whereas this offense is going to be, what we're assuming is going to look a lot more like the Kyle Shanahan offense. It's going to feature a lot of window dressing before the plays. It's going to feature a lot of crossers. It's going to let guys get the ball in space and run after the catch. That's just not what the Saints offense has been. Oddly enough, the running game is very similar. They both use like the wide zone running game, but the way they do it is different. The packages they run the running game out of are different. So, I just think that like the Saints offense as a system wasn't broken, but when you don't have Sean Payton calling the plays, it's different. And I think it just makes a lot of sense for them to be like, what's working in the NFL right now, where it doesn't necessarily matter whether you have Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay running it. We're seeing the successes from the guys who are branched out from the trees, whether it's Bobby Slowick or Kevin O'Connell or Matt LaFleur, Mike McDaniel. I mean, like, we're talking about top 10 offenses around the league where you don't have to have the genius play caller in order for it to run at the high level. So I think the whole thing where they were immediately targeting that style of offense was just really smart on their part. Get out of the way and let Kubiak kind of run the show on the offense.
As far as the guys that the Saints had on their team in the 2023 season that are now free agents, who would be the priority, maybe one or two, of guys that they really need to work on bringing back?
Are we talking about the team-wide or just the offense here?
Team-wide.
Yeah, I don't think it would be a bad idea to try to bring Andres Pete back on a very team-friendly deal if you can get it. He was fine last year. He played. He was their best tackle, which is not saying a whole lot, but it was good enough. But I think there's a second part to it where if you let him walk and he goes and signs with another team, you've got $13.5 million in dead money to deal with. So I would try to negotiate a deal with him, a team-friendly deal that can bring him back and not have to have that big hit. I really like what Isaac Yiadom did last year. He's kind of like a lower tier free agent. Somebody who might be commanding, I don't know, $4 or $5 million a year, something like that. But I think it's worth it. Just considering what we've seen from the cornerbacks in this defense. I mean, you have to cycle a lot of those guys in and out of there. It's a position where you need to have as much depth as you can, and I think he not only offers you some ability on the outside as a corner, but he's a really good special teams player. I mean, I think I'd like to see them try to retain him as well.
Those are the exact two names I came up with when I did this exercise last week. And I'm curious your thoughts. If the Saints ran out there, and you can see where this is going, with a cornerback group that was Alontae Taylor, Paulson Adebo, and Isaac Yiadom as kind of your starters. Now, obviously, that leaves that big hole, but that may be something you can get assets for if you were to deal Lattimore. How would you feel about that talent level any given Sunday?
Any given Sunday, I'd feel okay with it, but you'd need a lot more depth.
Yeah.
You need somebody there in case Yiadom can't reproduce what he did last year, which is easily his best season as a professional. And you need somebody in case Alontae Taylor or Paulson Adebo gets hurt. I mean, it's just been the reality for this team the last couple of years is they've had to cycle a lot of guys in and out. So like I feel good about it from just like that's what we have standpoint as a starting point, but like. If they were to trade Marshawn Lattimore, they'd have to beef up the secondary, probably in the draft.
That leads us to the Combine where you're headed next week up in Indy. I'm not going to ask you to target a player because that's ridiculous, but is there a position group that you think the Saints will have a more keen interest in this time around?
I think they've got to really zero in on offensive tackles and pass rushers. I think there are like a lot of options that are going to be available at 14. Just when you consider what the top of the draft is looking like it's going to shape up like, we're talking about at least 3 quarterbacks going in the top 10, probably at least 2 more receivers going in the top 10. So that's five players. That leaves 9 picks for all the other positions. And I think that could push a really good tackle or a really good edge rusher to the Saints at 14. So, I mean, there's a lot of guys I really like and guys who kind of fit what the Saints like. I think Jared Verse is like an obvious Saints kind of player. Really productive, long, explosive, powerful. I think Dallas Turner is a really interesting option if they really decide to kind of lean into the situational edge rusher, which they have not done in their history. He's a little bit lighter than their typical guy, but like obviously super productive, very good athlete. And then a tackle, I just think there's some really interesting guys that kind of fit their type of prototype. J.C. Latham, the Alabama offensive tackle. Amarius Mims is a guy from Georgia who didn't play like a ton of football, but like he's massive and he's a super athlete. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce the Penn State offensive tackle.
Yeah, don't.
But if he's there, 14. I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. So, those are the 2 groups where I feel like there could be a lot of really good players there, and those are their 2 most obvious positions of need right now. So I think that's where I'm going to zero in.
Hey, it's on. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.